As a homeowner, you don't want to find yourself in a situation where your furnace is no longer working, the house is cooling down, and you're on YouTube watching these top 5 videos that give you top 5 guesses on what your problem might be. There's a much better way. My name's Mike. I'm an HVAC professional. I'm going to share with you a technique that every professional uses to narrow down the actual problem with the furnace very quickly. This is going to help you find your problem on your furnace and not just furnaces in general. This technique centers around what is called the sequence of operations, and it's going to help you immediately start eliminating all the random guess fixes that are on YouTube. Step one is the thermostat itself actually calls for heat. This is going to send 24 volts down to the W terminal on your control board in the furnace to actually activate this process. When the control board sees that 24 volts on the W terminal, it is going to send 120 volts to our inducer draft motor, and our draft motor will begin to spin. Now this little motor pulls in fresh air for the combustion process in the furnace into the heat exchanger and then expels it outside as exhaust. The inducer draft motor creates a pressure change that a little switch called a pressure switch actually detects. There's a little diaphragm in here that closes a switch when the motor is on. The control board sends 24 volts to this switch when the unit is calling for heat, and when that switch closes, it will send 24 volts back to the control board. And this is how the control board can confirm that that inducer draft motor is actually running. Once our control board has its confirmation, it's going to send 120 volts to our igniter. You'll see this glowing stick near the burner compartment itself. And this is the heat we need to actually ignite our fuel. Next, our control board is going to send 24 volts to our gas valve so that it can open and start feeding fuel into the furnace, which will ignite. Now, the next part in the sequence is called a flame sensor, and this rod sits directly in the path of the flame itself. When there's a flame across this rod, it creates a DC current that the control board can detect. And this is how the control board confirms we actually have flame ignition and we're not just dumping unignited gas to dangerous levels in the furnace. And finally, after about a 90-second delay, the main blower motor of the unit will come on and start distributing warm air into the home. Now, every furnace that fails is going to fail somewhere in these 7 steps. And on some occasions, it might actually go through the full sequence, deliver warm air into the home, but it won't keep running long enough to satisfy the set point on the thermostat. Either way, the furnace is probably going to throw off an error code that you can see through a peephole, and you'll see a little red blinking light. The number of blinks are going to indicate what the error code is, and this list of codes are going to be inside the furnace on a sticker somewhere. Now, keep in mind, each one of these codes can have multiple problems that actually set those codes off. So for example, if you have a pressure switch code, it doesn't necessarily mean you have a pressure switch. It could be a couple of different problems. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to throw up on the screen a common list of problems that are associated with failure at each one of these steps in the sequence. Now, this is not an exhaustive list of everything that could possibly go wrong with the furnace, but if you know where the sequence is stopping, you now have a small list of components that you can start looking deeper into to get very close to where the problem actually lies. You'll know which videos to watch, what kind of questions to ask, and have information you could share with other people who are more knowledgeable on this to help you find a solution. In short, this is going to give you the best chance to do it yourself. It's a structured, guided process that tells you what it is you need to learn to actually achieve that. And if you have the skills, you have a better chance on getting to the problem faster, more efficiently, and a lot cheaper.